Okay, so here we are starting off the 12:30 turn, and the Union attack continues, and they're pretty much dissolving the Confederate Army. You can see the losses mounting up here. These are just clearing units off of the guns, and the cav that was here and the guns are gone. Walker's unit is basically being destroyed for no good purpose. It's just, taking up some of the flanking fire from Burnside's. It really looks like McClellan's got a massive victory here. The only question is how much of his points are being expended. Lee's position is beginning to look pretty much untenable. I've got to make sure that I hold the withdrawal route, because that would be the destruction of the army. I know this is only a 5-point space, and it doesn't seem too... Oh, there's another one down here. It doesn't seem too important, but if he gets himself pinned against the Potomac without an easy crossing, he's in a lot of trouble. And, okay, maybe McClellan probably wouldn't pursue very hard and actually, maybe wipe him out. But still, you would think Lee would not get himself cut off in a little pocket up here. Well, the Confederates are in a lot of trouble, as no doubt evidenced, and I'm going to call Walker as being an imminent threat of destruction, and allow him to do an emergency corps retreat, even though he's just a division. You can call these at pretty much any time. The penalty, though, is that I'm going to be rolling on the straggle table for Walker's 2 units. So we'll do that real quickly. So Ransom is a C morale unit, and this is all pretty simple. He's going to straggle one guy. We're used to doing these anyway. Now Walker is actually, I'm sorry, it's McLaw's. Oh no, it's Walker's command. Walker is a wrecked B, so he's going to roll a +2 for being wrecked. And he gets a 6. That means he's going to straggle 2 guys, which may not seem that great, but basically what it allows him to do is what he couldn't do otherwise, which is to fall back with his units. So we're going to be going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and just give some ground. Now, the way things turn out, the 9th Corps is actually going to leave Walker alone at this point and give him some chance to recover. Negative, these guns were unlimbered there, and I rolled high enough on the gun loss table. I'm losing them. I'm losing a lot of guns in this game. And I'm going to have to do the same with these guys too, try to get them out of there. They don't need a core check or anything. They're just in a stupid location and have to get out. And they only lose 1 gun. The numbers in this game are a little weird. Usually you have the 3 and 4 on the same side, the 1 and 2. Well, the 1s have nothing on their same side, just in case you're wondering what I'm grabbing there. So that's 3, 4, 5. Pull back to there. And I'll probably need to bring my 2nd Corps supply to try to help him. Supply wagons are the only... I didn't want to commit my army supply down there. Supply wagons have a problem. They're the only thing on secondary roads that only pays a full movement point for moving on them, so they're a little slower than everything else. You'll see them lagging in a lot of places. The Union fill out its 1st Corps supply wagon here. The Army supply train couldn't come all the way around here because it's got to stay on roads all the time. Because I like to pick on the messed up command structure. And the same thing applies to divisions on divisional goals, okay? If you're on a defensive goal, you can't move your leader. Well, what that meant is I couldn't go send D.H. Hill to go rally these units. This is a real problem. Now, in the divisional goals, hey, I very seldomly do them because they suck. They make your units worse by far. So I usually just don't use them unless I have a really pressing need, except for maybe sometimes on attack. But here, in this game, because of the command structure that mirrors that divisional goal, which I would guess most people just don't do, I would have to have left D.H. Hill back with his command. Now, he can keep everybody in command here. 1, 2, 3, 4. His whole command is in command if he walks over to do that. He doesn't cause any disruption. So I'm letting him do so. But again, there's something very screwed up about trying to play this game without defensive orders and with these stupid divisions that have no core that they're attached to. Well, that guy's not rallying, and I gotta worry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's gotta move this way. He's got nowhere to run because he's pinned, and there's even units up in that direction. He's in danger. All right. Into the 1 p.m. turn. Come to one of my consistent questions with the CWP series. Now I've resolved it to my own liking. First thing off, let's just say, this is a straggler recovery turn. That's what this is going to be about. But the 5th Corps had a halt. And all that means is I have to get out of, and I was already in that place because of the withdrawals by the Confederates. I have to get out of small arms fire range. I can't engage. And in fact, there's kind of a question of how much could the Confederates push forward and try to push the Union off that position? This becomes more complicated when you start fudging with the rolls. Clearly, as it stands, well, yes, they can, but I like playing with defensive orders, and I'm forbidden them from this game, which always pisses me off, because they make more sense out of things. If I have orders to defend this territory, and I haven't lost those orders yet, pushing to retake it makes sense to me. Whereas if I have, I'm bolted down here and I can go 4 hexes out, that stops making as much sense to me. That's something more general. But anyway, the question that I had is, how much can you drag your feet in pursuing your orders? The 9th Corps, for example, has orders to take Sharpsburg, as far as I'm concerned. Now, yet I've got units straggler recovering here. How legitimate is that? Obviously, if the units aren't on the board yet anymore, they should be able to do that. But to what extent can I not push forward? And as long as some of my units are moving forward, I feel comfortable with that situation. All right. That's just my feeling on it. But again, this is often a game where a lot of interpretation has to go into how you want to deal with orders right. Kind of in regards to the orders type situation. Without any orders, Anderson's troops kind of spread out into a more defensive position. That's perfectly allowed. In fact, this is even legal because I left him bolted with the unit he was with. Presumably, I could spread those forces out even more. The problem is Anderson's got to be stacked with a unit, and I can't move him by the letter of the law, and I don't feel like I have any orders to advance that line, so I do have to keep a unit back there as far as I'm concerned. Over here, a little bit of spread of this, who is this? Walker's force. He gets the Stonewall Brigade at some point under him. And some resupplying, a little bit of recovery. For the most part, not much happening, though. A little bit of a lull in the fighting, other than the 9th Corps pushing forward. I haven't even fired any artillery, although, the Confederates have a reason not to. The Union doesn't really, but they don't have anything great to shoot at. They've got their guns lined up over here, facing no enemy guns. They don't really want to waste ammo on that line. If I shift my guns this way, I'll start an artillery duel with the Confederate line there, which might be of some value or not. It's hard to tell. One thing I did notice, though, my McClellan points are up to 23.
So far, I've captured 3 points of stuff, 8 points of stuff. Make it 8. 8 points of stuff. So I'm at negative 17. McClellan is having a nightmare. He doesn't know where the Confederates are, and he hasn't dealt with this force sufficiently. What's he going to do about it? Well, his hope is if he takes Sharpsburg with the 9th Corps, that puts him up to 21 points. He's about even then. And then, if the 9th Corps stops moving, and one of his others, he's got both the 2nd and the 6th with orders waiting on them, come into play, he might be able to take some more points. But if they both come into play at the same time, he's going to start getting charged points again. He's really got to try to avoid giving out more orders and give his troops a chance to recover a little bit. I've got to recount the casualties, I think, see what they turn out as, because they've probably gotten way off rails at this point.
I only missed a few on each side. Like 4 on each side. For the Confederates, we're at 79 casualties. For the Union, we're at 108 now. That's times 100, so 79 is 7,900. For the Union, some 10,800. What do we have in terms of the victory points for that? So far, just to get a feel, Union has just run into the 15 victory points side. The Confederates are up in the 20. And it's going to go higher, there's no question. I don't remember what the historical casualties for the day were. I know it's the most. The bloodiest day, but I don't remember what the total is, and I'm looking and I do not see it listed here. I see things like Hill reached with 2,000 men, but I don't see how many. They don't list the losses here. All right. Now, quick look at Wiki shows me some 22,000 or so was the historical. So we're still within that, and that's actually one of the beauties of this system. Is unlike, say, I don't know, the TSS Great Battles of the American Civil War games, without their restrictions on command, I end up with like double the casualties in Gettysburg that historically happened. I mean, you just end up with everything wiped. And in this, you know, I may be a little high for this period of the day. I think I may actually be a little low even. I'm seeing by midday, well, by the middle section of the battle, and I'm not quite sure where they counted that, but on the wiki, I would guess in an hour or so, they're talking about 18,000 losses total. So I think I'm about on track. I'm certainly not too far off, but I would look at things like TSS and I'd be in the middle of a second day and I'd say, wow, I've surpassed the total losses of 3 days of Gettysburg already. And that doesn't happen in CWB games. And this one especially. I mean, even some of the others, even Thunder, I would get some pretty hefty casualty results. Just because, especially without defensive orders being used, units will stick around and fight pretty hard. In this, well, McClellan's unwilling to commit. So, you know, unless you try writing, and even if you do, but unless you try writing orders for McClellan like you would in any other game, you're not going to be committing widespread attacks on all fronts. And if you do that, you're going to lose the game because McClellan can handle it. But even if you were playing without a McClellan restriction, you still have McClellan's Grade 0 rating, which says, hey, I'm not going to be fighting too hard. You know, I'm going to get a lot of D2s and stuff like that when I write orders. And if I'm on the attack, I'm just not going to be able to get all my corps moving when I want them to. All right, let me go play some video games or something. Here in 130, the Union 6th Corps started moving. That means I got 2 corps in action again, which means McClellan points are getting spent again. The 9th Corps pushed into Sharpsburg, but they got repulsed pretty badly, actually. Not a lot of casualties, but you can see the morale effects. I've got to... those are going to rally. I've also shifted some of my artillery. I'm slowly moving it into place where I can maybe, you know, weaken Jones's position a little bit because I'm having trouble moving forward. But there ain't a lot I can do
here about Anderson's division. That's not terribly strong. I've got to look and put my little B's and C's under there. That'll help me decide how to stack them. But still, it's fresh units that, I can't really advance on. And unless I get all of Sharpsburg, I don't get those 13 points for that. So, I don't know. Anderson finally got his orders, and that meant he could move up 1 hex. He's got orders to go to down here, but those wouldn't be defensive orders. He's got simple orders, so he had to stop in Sharpsburg as far as I'm concerned. He probably could have pushed his flank a little forward. What I'm looking at, though, I've put Lee here. I've got Longstreet over here. I'm a little iffy about Jackson's proposed command on AP Hill, or on Hood's division at this point, because, it's obvious something's going on down there. And I don't want to throw my reinforcements out of the way. But there's kind of a problem with this line here. It doesn't quite connect back here. I've got the cab. I could swing the cab around to help screen the rear of this Confederate line if need be. As it turns out, knowing the orders, it's not necessary, but I'll probably do that. Let's get them into place. I don't really want to give up this space. I don't think the 5th Corps is going anywhere. Move that there. Things weren't quite as bad with Anderson's unit as I thought. Most of those are A quality units, or A size units. But there are a couple of C's here and a B. These are all perfectly fresh. They're just, for this battle, they've just been campaigning. I had some thoughts of launching an attack coming in these directions, is what I was kind of saying. Do some more damage to the 9th Corps and make it fail its Corps attack stoppage check. One thing I noticed that I forgot about in the rolls was that the headquarters have to pull back so that they're 8 hexes or more away from the Confederate units when you get a Corps stoppage. Another thing to keep in mind, if the 9th Corps makes its objective, it's not deactivated. Which means I can roll for initiative, I guess, but with Burnside's, that's not terribly impressive. So I'd still be paying points if I capture Sharpsburg if I don't get that unit moving again. As opposed to the other units which have all failed their attack stoppage checks. You kind of want to write lots and lots of orders for units in this game, because otherwise you may end up paying for things that you wouldn't otherwise. I don't know. You're not getting anything done with. It's an interesting observation. I think you might be able to voluntarily deactivate a unit, though. Not surprisingly, I suck. I forgot something, which was the points, I think, for the 6th Corps. They had to spend 4 points to commit. And then the 2nd Corps came into action, and that was another 5 points. Basically, everything that's meant to be over there is meant to stay and not be in the battle. And I'm incapable of being McClellan, I guess. Which is probably a good thing overall, but I just can't not commit my forces. I would be doing this even if I was afraid that there were more Confederate forces coming in from somewhere. I would be looking at the tactical situation that I've got and trying to win the current battle rather than worrying too much about what's off on the way. Anyway, each time you commit a corps, you pay this huge cost. Now, if you recommit them, like I might have been able to do, I don't know, maybe with the 1st Corps, you pay a cost again. But I just, it's almost an emotional impossibility for me to commit this force when I've got a force in reserve here that I can swing around. I'd rather recuperate the ones I've got. And by doing that, I'm running up the points on the McClellan table. It's up to 35. I don't know if there's that many points on the board. 23, 30, yeah. I could probably still win. Oh, there's another 5 down here. I keep forgetting about that. So yeah, I mean, if I completely clear the board, and I wasn't paying any more points, it would be fine. But right now I've got 3 core moving. I've got the 6th, the 2nd, and the 9th moving. Now I'm hoping the 9th stops at some point, but I've got more points I got to pay anyway. And it's pretty close to a wash. I mean, I've got an advantage on points on the Confederates because I'm causing so many casualties. Now, if this sort of encirclement does as much damage as I think it might, I might still be able to pull off a victory, but I'm not acting like McClellan here. I'm throwing everything in one after the other. I'm just not, doing it in as coordinated a fashion as I would like to do, and as I usually manage to pull off, even with a bad leader in CWB games. But yeah, I'm definitely doing this a little ugly. All right, well, on to the Confederates. Too terribly exciting here. The Confederates having some difficulty. Lee ran back. He's going to give orders to his headquarters to get it out of there. I don't know what happens if it gets stepped on. Version 3.0 has rules for moving the headquarters. I don't think it has rules for stepping on it, but I feel like that should be a bad thing, right? I don't know. The routes didn't recover. And this guy here, I don't know what to do with him. He's supposed to keep retreating, but he's got nowhere he can go that he'll be 6 X's away from the enemy. He's kind of popping out that way to the north. He's pretty much out of play the way he's heading. He'll probably get shot on the way through. But, yeah, they're holding here. They may not have if there was defensive orders in this game. We'll move to the 230 turn. We get AP Hill this time. I don't know where the hell he shows up. I guess we'll see next turn. Probably down here with everything else. Well, danger to using tweezers is if you're very clumsy, you can make a bigger mess than you can without. You're going to have to repair things here. Now, the tweezers may not have been able to destroy the Confederate line for good, but it looks like the Union 9th has done a pretty good job over there. And the 6th is actually shooting its way through now. Low ammo here, but we had enfilading fire on that location. Wiped out 3 strength points. Obviously no straggle, and it held its own against the morale check. But that just means it gets shot at some more. And I got to get this one out. This one would have been a good choice to fire at too. That's some artillery that's limbered that the Confederates have to pull back there. So again, here we are at the problem where by the rules I can't even fall back, although if we had the core structure that would be allowable. I'm disturbed by that. And there's also I'm not sure what happened. So this got wiped out and the headquarters moved over here. So actually, if there was any of that left, it could pull back there. But it's such a confusing situation when you're playing with these rules. You kind of have to fudge it all along. CWB is usually pretty good, but all this stuff pre-Confederate core structure really leaves you with ambiguous roles. And as we push to the 3 o'clock turn, the Confederates kind of pulling back, and they rearrange the road. Now here's another situation where that current rules suck. Not that I'm playing with them, but Hill got knocked out of the trench. That's an unlikely thing. Basically, you have to get this bad disorganized or worse. Plus he had artillery with him, so that would have prevented it too. But as long as you get that bad a result, which he did from some artillery fire here, he got pushed out. And now if I was playing by the rules, he couldn't get back in there. Other units could move in there, but he would have to have a unit stacked with him all the time, and he can't move because he's bolted down. Just bad situation. And even if he was able to stay where he was and be bolted down, I remember there being some kind of option that allowed that. That still wouldn't work. He needs to be in the sunken road. He's looking at defending against from two sides there. So he needs to have that flexibility to move, and this is just one of the problems with the way the game works. Lee managed to rally the damaged unit here. These guys, they're not going to get on in time to do anything. They go out to here and then await orders. Well, it's going to take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 turns to get this whole unit over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you know. Then another turn to get there. There's not going to be any battle going on. The only hope is that they get orders beforehand to like create a picket down here. They'll form a last line of defense at the retreat path. I think that's it for me for tonight. If I'm clumsy enough to drop the tweezers, I don't think I'm nimble enough mentally to keep playing either. Especially since I have a straggler recovery turn coming up. Straggler recovery turns are kind of a pain in the ass. They're the part of the game that requires so much bookkeeping. It's enough, you know, the rolling, the lookups, all this. Sometimes, I don't know, usually it doesn't bother me, but it's kind of fatiguing me in this one more than it usually does. And the 9th Corps continues trying to fight for that last little corner of Sharpsburg. That's worth 13 points right now. And the 6th and 2nd Corps are now falling on the road position. The 6th has to cut its way through the church and the rest of the woods. They've got a little bit of the woods to get through. Meanwhile, the 5th, 1st, and 12th are still recovering. And up here, McClellan has decided, hey, let's commit the last thing. That's the cheap one. It only costs 1 point and it doesn't count as a corps. I don't believe. Maybe it is a corps. Doesn't have a supply wagon. It doesn't have a corps thing. No, I don't think it's a corps. It's just the cav. And what he wants to write for orders for that, he hasn't done it yet, is something to grab these spaces and hold from the rear of the Confederate to block off their retreat a little bit. And that would basically run the board if he can get everything that it looks like he's got. He's got this kind of open. The Confederates could run and grab that if I don't station something over there, which might be tricky. Well, no major gains by the Union. They got pushed back here. They got to stay in some positions and trade fire. They caused as many casualties as they took, which is always good when you're attacking, coming in here. They've got the bigger numbers, so they can fire more. The only real gain they got was they got rid of Rhodes's unit up here at the beginning of the entrenchment. And the point here is these guys are constantly surrounded. Whatever unit I'm attacking on the end of the line is, it's going to get enfilade fire against it. Now it also gets the trench bonus, but the trench bonus is 1 in its favor. The enfilade fire is 3 against it. So that is not that defensible a location anymore. And I'm thinking I kind of got to get out of there. And if I got to get out of there, I got to get out of here. I got to just fall back. To where? To what? To do what? I don't know. But I can't hold there under these kind of circumstances. My army is surrounded, and it's just not a good situation. Alright, well, we've entered a new phase of the game as far as I'm concerned, where everything's kind of starting to happen at once. The Confederates rolled a couple of initiatives. D.H. Hill is going to pull out of here, try to put himself down here. And you can see how few orders that I've written in the game. They're coming a little fast and furious now because of the initiative and the many things. Here's the Union set of orders. They've got attack orders, so they tend to be more complex. With defensive orders, you'll see, when you're playing with that optional rule, you'll see a lot more orders because any core defense failure requires you to go do something to get that unit back into activated status, essentially. Not like activated here, but in the sense that they actually are defending something instead of just milling about waiting to get hit, and then when they do, they'll have to pull out automatically with another retreat. Longstreet also made an initiative roll. Now, that's not accepted yet. He's trying to get Walker to assault Sharpsburg. He's using... So, this game was not written for version 3, so it's not clear whether or not he should be applying points to that 16 points that Lee is allowed to spend. But I've decided, yes, it should be. If anything, this confuses the situation more with these loose commanders, but they're part of the command structure, and they've got to count against it in some way. So anyway, that's going to count too, because he's doing a Force 2 command, I believe, there. I may change that. Let me calculate it out real quick. He's a 4, Walker's a 2, that's 6, 7, 8, 6. It doesn't help me to make it Force 2. I'll just make it Force 1. There's just break-offs on the thing, which means I'm only at 2 points out of the 16. I just figure I can spend them. I don't have a lot of time left here. McClellan, of course, can't. His become penalties immediately. So anything that I do with him is going to be expensive. So let's do that quick little roll. It's going to be on the 6 to 7 chart. And I get an 8. That's going to put it in D1. So he's not accepting that order. Now, if I had rolled directly with Walker, he would undertake it immediately, but instead he's got to do some prep work because it's not really his idea, and he's got to think about it a little bit. All right, well, let's see what we can do with the Confederates, and we got a lot of units that are just completely wiped out, so I've got lots and lots of straggler recovery rolls, even if my other stuff is probably too close to do so. This is what a withdrawal looks like in this system. You got D.H. Hill beginning to pull his forces back. You got really a clump because of the lack of corps commands, because I have to individually order each division essentially to get out of there. Now I can do the emergency retreats if need be, and I could have done that with D.H. Hill actually. That would have been a good option. You got Lee is up here trying to get into position to issue some orders to get out of there. Jackson is up there giving orders. We got Longstreet moving his way up to do so. I would rather not take the emergency retreat rules. Those extra straggle events are not pleasant, but if all you're trying to do is get out of a place, it's not a bad option. And I may need to do it. I didn't really need to get these units out yet. I want to make sure that I kind of slowly pull back in a somewhat organized fashion. Now, you can't see a route in this game because there is no emergency. There is no core defense failure here. In in the games where they allow the core defense failure, and I almost feel like it should be every game, I really don't like not seeing it there, but there you get to see real routes, and those are painful. But in some cases, units may not have the staying power that they did historically, and I think the view here is I think that they're a little too likely, to tell you the truth, although they're not so bad. Basically, I think you have a 2-point advantage on here. Oh. 10.3D. Oh, that's, yeah. Yeah, I think it's a 2-point advantage to core defense, a +2 to the die roll, which means you will never fail as long as you're in good condition. You will only fail once you're racked. I find that units last still longer than you kind of would expect them to sometimes. So I find the defensive rules pretty good, but they decided, well, nah, you got to be willing to take 80% losses or whatever, 100% losses, because the Confederates are wrecked. I mean, they really are. Their army is stripped down pretty damn low. Anyway, what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to load this one up because
I don't really have room on this video for the rest of the game, but, and this is kind of a turning point here. Rhodes giving up the road, actually no, Hill's giving up the road, and really giving up all these forward positions. The chance of holding on to any of Sharpsburg, very low. So we're looking at 20, 26, 29, 34 points here. What does McClellan have? McClellan's built up 37. So we're pretty close. All right. Let me see. 10, 19, 24. Wait. 20. 29, 34 points, yeah. Where it really comes down to, can the Confederates hold their position back here? Now, right now, I've got some hope of keeping the Union out of Sharpsburg, but I think that's pretty low given the length of the entire battle. But if the focus of the fight is here at Sharpsburg, it's not back here. Of course, if McClellan gets his cav moving back there, they could cut off the Confederate withdrawal. That could be a serious problem.